I thought I had built the perfect life. Owen Mitchell, 33 years old, senior accountant, pulling in a solid 6 figures analyzing numbers that never lied. Unlike people, apparently. 4 years ago, I married Claire Hart, a stunning 25-year-old with honey blonde hair and a smile that could make a man forget his own name. We had an arrangement that seemed ideal. I would be the provider, the rock, the foundation of our future, while Claire would transform our suburban 3-bedroom house into a home. For the first 3 years, it worked flawlessly. I'd come home to the smell of dinner cooking, to a wife who greeted me with genuine enthusiasm, to conversations about our future children and weekend plans. Claire seemed content managing our household, decorating rooms with careful attention to detail, hosting dinner parties for my colleagues where she charmed everyone effortlessly. I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? She had no financial worries, no job stress, no reason to be anything but grateful for the life I'd provided. The house was mine alone, purchased before our marriage, mortgage in my name only. Claire had access to credit cards, a generous monthly allowance, freedom to shop and lunch with friends whenever she pleased. She drove the Honda CR-V I'd bought her 2 years ago, lived in comfort I'd worked 60-hour weeks to afford. What more could she want? But 6 months ago, something shifted. The change was so subtle at first that I questioned my own perception. Claire's shopping trips, once a pleasant weekly outing, became daily expeditions. She'd leave after breakfast and return just before dinner, carrying shopping bags that seemed insufficient for 8 hours away from home. When I'd ask about her day, her responses became vague, dismissive. "Oh, you know, just browsing. Had lunch somewhere? Lost track of time," she would say with a wave of her hand. The details were always missing. "Which stores? Where did you eat? Who did you see?" Her answers floated on air, substantial as smoke. I started noticing other things with the methodical attention that made me successful at catching financial discrepancies. Claire showered immediately upon returning home, even on days when she claimed to have done nothing but walk through air-conditioned malls. Her phone became a permanent appendage, constantly buzzing with messages that made her smile in ways I hadn't seen in months. She'd angle the screen away whenever I approached, protecting it like state secrets. Her appearance changed, too. Makeup for grocery runs, designer outfits for errands, perfume applied with the care of someone expecting to be noticed, but not by me. Last Tuesday evening, I found a receipt in her purse while searching for my car keys. Riverside Cafe downtown, 2 cappuccinos, 2 lunch entrees, total $47.83. When I mentioned it casually over dinner, Claire barely paused her fork. "Oh, I ran into Sarah from college. We grabbed lunch and caught up," she replied without looking up from her plate. But she didn't offer Sarah's last name, didn't mention what they discussed, didn't suggest we invite Sarah and her husband over sometime. The explanation existed solely to fill the silence, devoid of the natural details that accompany truth. That night, lying beside my sleeping wife in the bed I paid for, in the house I owned, staring at shadows cast by streetlights through windows I'd chosen, my accountant's instincts screamed with the same certainty I felt when discovering embezzled funds. Numbers didn't lie. Patterns revealed truth, and every pattern I'd observed pointed to one inescapable conclusion. Claire was lying to me. About what? I wasn't entirely certain yet, but the foundation of our perfect life had developed cracks, and I needed to know how deep they ran before the entire structure collapsed. I picked up my phone in the darkness, searched private investigator near me, and saved a phone number to my contacts. I didn't call, not yet, but I would. Because the man who'd built this life deserved to know who was destroying it from within. And if my suspicions proved correct, Claire Hart Mitchell was about to learn exactly what happened when someone tried to steal from a man who'd spent his career catching thieves. For 2 days, I wrestled with myself like a man drowning in his own thoughts. The rational part of me, the part that had climbed from junior accountant to senior analyst through careful deliberation, insisted I should confront Claire directly. Give her a chance to explain. Trust the woman I'd married. But the professional part of me, the part that had uncovered countless cases of corporate fraud, knew better. You don't accuse without evidence. You don't show your hand before you've calculated every possible outcome. And you never ever give the guilty party time to construct better lies or destroy evidence. Wednesday morning. I sat in my car outside Baker & Associates during lunch break, staring at the contact I'd saved, Raymond Cross, private investigator. My colleague James had used Raymond 2 years ago when his own marriage imploded. Best money I ever spent, James had said. At least I knew the truth instead of living in her web of lies. I dialed the number. Cross Investigations, came the professional voice. Unsurprised, carrying the weight of a man who'd heard this story countless times. I need you to follow my wife, I said quietly, surprised by how steady my voice sounded despite the earthquake in my chest. I think she's cheating, but I need proof before I make any accusations. Raymond asked necessary questions with the efficiency of a doctor taking symptoms. Claire's description, 5'6", blonde hair, distinctive silver Honda CR-V. Her typical schedule, the time windows I'd observed, the behavioral patterns that had triggered my suspicion. He quoted his rate without hesitation. $150 per hour. Minimum 3-day retainer. Start tomorrow, I said, and gave him my credit card information. Thursday morning arrived with deceptive normalcy. I went to work, attended budget meetings, reviewed quarterly reports, responded to emails, all while my phone sat face up on my desk like a loaded weapon. At 11:47 a.m., it buzzed. Raymond. Subject left residence 10:15 a.m. in silver CR-V, license plate visible. Currently at Riverside Cafe downtown, corner table. She's with a male, mid-20s, athletic build, dark hair. Body language suggests familiarity, leaning in, touching hands across table. Documenting everything, my vision blurred. I locked my office door, sat down heavily, forced air into lungs that seemed to have forgotten their purpose. 4 years of marriage reduced to a text message. More updates arrived throughout the day, each one a surgical strike to my heart. Raymond. Subjects left cafe together. Observed extended embrace and kiss in parking lot before separating to different vehicles. Following subject's vehicle now. Raymond. Subject drove directly to Riverside Hotel, downtown location. Male arrived 4 minutes later in black Ford Mustang. They entered lobby together. Confirmed check-in to room 412 under male's name, Brett Donovan. Have video footage of kiss before entering building. I closed my laptop, told my assistant I wasn't feeling well, and left the office. I drove aimlessly through suburbs that suddenly felt foreign. Hands trembling on the steering wheel of a car I'd bought with money earned through devotion to a woman who was, at that moment, naked in a hotel room with another man. Raymond. Subjects exiting hotel, 3:52 p.m. Extended embrace in lobby visible through glass doors. Male kissed subject goodbye at elevator. I have clear facial identification for both parties. Ran license plates. Brett Donovan, 26, registered address Parkside Apartments, employed at Apex Fitness as personal trainer. A personal trainer. 26 years old. I almost laughed at the cliche, but laughter required breath I didn't have. That evening I arrived home before Claire. When she walked through the door at 5:23 p.m., perfectly timed as always, she carried 2 small shopping bags and hummed softly to herself. The same woman who'd kissed another man goodbye 3 hours earlier now kissed my cheek with lips that had been elsewhere. "How was your day, honey?" she asked cheerfully. "Fine," I managed. "Yours?" "Oh, just running around. Found a few things on sale at Nordstrom Rack," she replied, heading upstairs immediately for her post-adultery shower, a ritual I now understood with sickening clarity. I sat at our kitchen table, my kitchen table, and stared at nothing while water ran overhead, washing away evidence of betrayal. Friday and Saturday brought more of the same. Raymond's reports arrived with clockwork precision. 2 more hotel visits. 1 lunch date where Claire and Brett sat so close they appeared fused together. Credit card receipts from hotel charges that I was unknowingly funding through the allowance I gave my wife. Sunday evening, Raymond emailed his comprehensive report. I opened it in my home office while Claire watched television downstairs, probably texting her lover during commercial breaks. The document contained everything: high-resolution photographs, video files, timestamps, license plate confirmations, even transcripts of text messages Raymond had captured through reflected phone screens. I watched a video of my wife kissing another man in a hotel parking lot, with passion I hadn't seen directed toward me in months. I saw photographs of them holding hands during intimate lunches, gazing at each other with the intensity of new lovers discovering each other. I read fragments of messages. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow," and "Owen's working late again, we have all afternoon." My name, used as a scheduling tool for her infidelity. When the laptop screen went dark, reflecting my face in its surface, I saw something that hadn't been there a week ago. The man staring back was harder, colder, calculating. The husband who'd trusted blindly was gone. In his place sat someone who understood exactly what needed to be done. I opened my phone and typed an email to Margaret Sinclair, the most ruthless divorce attorney in the state. Subject line, "Urgent. Need consultation tomorrow." "Owen? Are you coming to bed?" Claire called from downstairs. "Be right there," I called back, my voice perfectly normal. But I was already gone. The man who'd loved Claire Mitchell was dead. The man who would destroy her was just beginning. Monday morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. Claire accepted my explanation of a stomach bug without question. Why would she doubt the husband she'd been deceiving? For 6 months? I waited until she left for her morning errands before driving to downtown's legal district. Margaret Sinclair's office occupied the top floor of a steel and glass tower that pierced the sky like a blade. Her reputation preceded her through the marble lobby. The divorce attorney who'd dismantled 3 prominent politicians, 2 CEOs, and a celebrity chef with surgical precision. Rumor claimed she'd never lost a case where adultery was involved. Sitting across from her mahogany desk, I felt like I was consulting a general about war strategy. Margaret was mid-50s, silver-haired, with eyes that could dissect lies at 50 paces. I slid Raymond Cross's complete investigative report across her desk without preamble. "I need a divorce," I said simply, "and I need her to get nothing." Margaret examined the materials with the methodical attention of a pathologist. Photographs, videos, hotel receipts, text message captures, license plate confirmations. She absorbed every detail while making precise notes on yellow legal paper. 20 minutes passed in silence before she looked up. "This is ironclad," she said, tapping the photographs with a manicured finger. "Documented adultery with photographic and video evidence across multiple instances. Clear proof of ongoing deception and betrayal. In this state, that constitutes grounds for fault-based divorce." She leaned back in her leather chair. "You'll retain the house. It's solely in your name. You'll keep your retirement accounts, savings, investments, everything. She's been voluntarily unemployed throughout the marriage, so there's no argument for her contributing to marital assets. With this evidence, she'd be fortunate to leave with her clothing." "What's the timeline?" I asked. "I can have papers drafted by Wednesday." "How do you want service handled?" she replied. I leaned forward. "I'll handle the serving personally, but I need a few days before she receives them. Can you hold the papers until I give the word?" Margaret's eyebrow arched slightly. "I don't want to know about anything that could complicate these proceedings," she warned. "It won't," I assured her. "I just need to tie up some loose ends first. It's your timeline, but don't wait too long. And don't do anything that could jeopardize our case," she replied firmly. After leaving Margaret's office, I drove directly to First National Bank, where I'd maintained accounts for over a decade. My financial advisor, Robert Brown, had helped me navigate everything from first-time homebuyer programs to retirement planning. Now he would help me navigate divorce. "I'm filing for divorce," I explained, spreading documents across his desk. "I need to secure every asset before papers are served." Robert reviewed my financial profile with practiced efficiency. "Your checking account is solely in your name, protected. Your 401k and investment portfolios, protected. The house deed, protected. The only joint liability is the credit card she uses for household expenses," he informed me. Within an hour, Claire's credit card was canceled and paid off in full. I opened a new checking account she couldn't access, transferred my salary direct, deposit, and documented every penny I'd spent on Claire throughout our marriage. The numbers were staggering. $187,000 over 4 years. Nearly $50,000 per year to fund the lifestyle of a woman who was using that freedom to betray me. One more suggestion, Robert said as we concluded. Change all your passwords. Bank, accounts, investment platforms, email, everything. If she has access to any financial information, eliminate it immediately. That evening, I returned home and performed normalcy like an actor hitting his marks. I kissed Claire hello, asked about her day, ate the dinner she'd prepared with hands that had touched another man that afternoon. We watched television together on the couch, her head on my shoulder while she probably planned tomorrow's rendezvous during commercial breaks. But inside, I'd already departed. The man sitting beside Claire was a ghost. The real Owen Mitchell was 3 steps ahead, constructing her downfall with the same methodical precision I applied to corporate audits. Tuesday evening, I made a phone call to David Turner, my closest friend since childhood. David had served 2 tours as a Marine before starting a private security company. He'd been my best man, had stood beside me when I promised to love and honor the woman who was systematically destroying our marriage. "David, I need a favor," I said when he answered. "Anything, brother." "What's happening?" he replied immediately. "My wife's been cheating on me. I have proof. I'm filing for divorce. Everything's handled legally. But there's something I need to do first, and I need you there with me," I explained. David didn't hesitate. "When and where?" he asked. "Tomorrow night. I'll text you the address," I replied. "I'll be there," he confirmed. I hung up and stared at Brett Donovan's address. Unit 3B, Parkside Apartments. Raymond had included it in his comprehensive report, along with employment information, vehicle registration, even social media profiles. Brett Donovan, 26, personal trainer, collector of married women's secrets. I wasn't a violent man. I'd never thrown a punch in my adult life, had built my success through intellect and persistence rather than physical force. But some debts required different forms of payment. Some accounts needed settling before the books could be closed. I pulled up Brett's latest social media post, a shirtless gym selfie with the caption, "Earned it." His smile was arrogant, satisfied, the expression of a man who thought he was getting away with theft. Tomorrow night, Brett Donovan would earn something else entirely. Wednesday evening, 8:47 p.m. I pulled into the cracked asphalt parking lot of Parkside Apartments with David in the passenger seat. The complex was exactly what I'd expected, a decaying monument to low rent and lower standards, where someone like Brett Donovan could afford to live on a personal trainer's salary. "You sure about this?" David asked. His tone carried no judgment, just the practical concern of a man who'd seen violence and understood its consequences. "I'm sure," I answered. We climbed the exterior staircase to the 2nd floor, our footsteps echoing in the humid night air. Unit 3B sat at the corridor's end, bass-heavy music thumping through thin walls. I knocked with the authority of a man demanding payment on an overdue debt. The door opened. Brett Donovan stood there in gray sweatpants and nothing else, every inch the arrogant 26-year-old who'd been with my wife in hotel rooms I was unknowingly financing. His body was everything mine wasn't. Young, sculpted, built for the kind of physical passion that apparently mattered more than 4 years of devotion and financial security. "Yeah," he said, annoyed at the interruption, probably expecting a neighbor complaining about the noise. I didn't speak. I shoved past him into the apartment, David following immediately behind. Brett stumbled backward, confusion shifting to alarm as his situation became clear. "Whoa! What the hell? Who are you?" he demanded. "I'm Claire Mitchell's husband," I said coldly. The blood drained from his face like water from a broken dam. "Oh, shit. Man, look, I didn't know she was—" he started desperately. "Liar!" I cut him off, my voice ice. "She's been married for 4 years. She wears a wedding ring. You knew exactly what you were doing when you started seeing her. I swear she said she was separated. She said her marriage was—" he pleaded. My fist connected with his jaw before the excuse finished forming. Brett crashed sideways into the wall, shocked, blood spattering from his split lip onto the cheap white paint. He tried to recover, tried to get his hands up defensively. But David was already moving, grabbing Brett by the throat and throwing him to the stained carpet. "Stay down," David said calmly, his voice carrying the weight of a man who'd done worse than this in distant countries. I kicked Brett in the ribs, once, twice, 3 times. Not wild, desperate swings, but deliberate impacts calculated like everything else I did. Brett curled into a protective ball, whimpering, trying to shield his torso from further damage. "Please, stop, I'm sorry," he gasped. I crouched down, grabbed his hair, forced him to look at me through blood and tears. "You stay away from my wife. You delete her number. You pretend she never existed. Because if I find out you contacted her again, if I even hear your name mentioned in connection with hers, I'll come back here and finish what I started. Do you understand me?" I demanded. Brett nodded frantically, terror overriding pride. David leaned down, his voice quiet but carrying absolute conviction. "And if you're thinking about calling the police or telling anyone about this visit, don't. Because we'll know. And we'll come back, and next time, we won't stop at broken ribs," he warned. I stood, looked down at Brett one final time. The personal trainer was broken, physically, emotionally, completely. His good looks were temporarily ruined, his confidence shattered, his sense of invincibility exposed as the delusion it had always been. He'd heal. His ribs would mend, his face would return to normal, but he'd never forget the lesson that some men's wives came with prices too high to pay. We left without another word. My knuckles were raw and bleeding. I wiped them on my jeans as we descended the stairs, feeling something like satisfaction for the first time in weeks. "You good?" David asked when we reached my car. "I'm fine," I replied. "You crossed a line tonight, brother," he observed. I knew he was right. The Owen Mitchell who'd built a life through careful planning and legal channels was gone. In his place stood someone willing to use physical violence to protect what was his or to punish those who'd taken it. "Then make sure it was worth it," David added. I drove home through suburban streets that felt different now, changed by what I'd done and what I was about to do. Claire's Honda was in the driveway. She was already back from wherever she'd told me she was going tonight. Probably had met Brett earlier in the day. That didn't matter anymore. I walked inside. Claire was on the couch watching reality television, eating popcorn from a ceramic bowl I'd bought her for Christmas 2 years ago. She looked up and smiled with the same warmth she'd shown me since our wedding day. "Hey, how was your night with David?" she asked cheerfully. "Good. Just caught up," I replied. "That's nice," she said, patting the cushion beside her. "Come watch with me." I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd married. The woman I'd trusted with my future, my finances, my heart. The woman who had been methodically destroying our marriage for 6 months while living in comfort I provided. Spending money I earned, sleeping in a bed I paid for. Tomorrow morning, she was going to understand exactly what she'd lost. "I'm tired," I said. "I'm going to bed." "Okay, babe," she replied, blowing me a kiss. The same gesture she'd performed thousands of times. I climbed the stairs, got into bed fully clothed, and stared at the ceiling. My knuckles throbbed. My chest felt hollow. But my mind was crystal clear. My phone buzzed. A text from Margaret Sinclair. "Papers are ready." "Tomorrow?" I typed back. "Tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. I set my alarm for 6 a.m. Claire's last normal morning was almost over, and she had no idea her entire world was about to collapse. Thursday morning. I woke at 6 a.m. as planned, showered, dressed in my work clothes with the same precision I'd maintained every morning for 4 years. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and waited with the patience of a predator who'd spent months planning the perfect strike. Claire woke at 8:30, her usual time. I heard the shower running, heard her moving through the morning routine that had become as predictable as sunrise. She came downstairs at 9:15 wearing a yellow sundress and heels, makeup applied with artistic precision, hair styled for someone worth impressing. "Going shopping. Again." "Morning," she said brightly, grabbing her purse from the granite counter I'd paid to install. "I'm heading out for a few hours. Need anything while I'm out?" I took a deliberate sip of coffee. "I don't think you'll be going anywhere today," I said calmly. Claire paused, her hand freezing on her car keys. "What do you mean?" she asked, confusion creeping into her voice. Your boyfriend won't be able to see you. He's indisposed, I replied. The smile died on her face like a light being switched off. What? She whispered. I stood slowly, walked to the counter where Margaret Sinclair's assistant had delivered a manila envelope an hour earlier. I picked it up and threw it at Claire's feet. It hit the tile floor with a sound like a gunshot, and papers scattered. Photographs, printed text messages, hotel receipts, investigator reports. Claire stared down at the evidence of her betrayal spread across the kitchen floor. Her face transformed from confusion to recognition to pure terror. Photos of her and Brett kissing in parking lots. Photos of them entering hotels together, her head thrown back in laughter at something he'd whispered. Screenshots of intimate text messages where she complained about her boring husband and planned afternoon sessions with her beautiful trainer. A detailed timeline of every meeting. Every lie, every moment of betrayal documented with forensic precision. Owen, she started, her voice cracking like breaking glass. Don't, I cut her off, my voice flat, emotionless. The tone I used when delivering bad news to clients whose embezzlement I'd uncovered. I know everything. I had a private investigator follow you for a week. I have video footage of you sleeping with him in hotel rooms I'm paying for. I have photographs of you kissing him, holding his hand, laughing with him while I worked 60-hour weeks to fund your lifestyle. I have receipts for hotels you charged to the credit card I gave you. Claire's knees buckled. She dropped her purse, papers crunching under her heels as she stumbled backward against the refrigerator. Oh, and please, it was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. She pleaded desperately. It didn't mean anything? I asked, my laugh cold, sharp enough to cut. You've been seeing him for 6 months. You lied to me every single day. You showered when you got home to wash his smell off your skin. You took my money, lived in my house, slept in my bed, and a 26-year-old personal trainer in cheap hotels. Owen, I'll end it. I'll never see him again. We can fix this, please, she begged. It's already ended. I made sure of that last night, I informed her coldly. Claire's eyes widened, genuine fear replacing calculation. What did you do? She asked, terror creeping into her voice. I paid Brett a visit. He understands now that you're off limits. He won't be bothering you anymore, I explained. I stepped closer, towering over her as she pressed herself against the appliances I'd purchased. But it doesn't matter, because you're not going to be here, Owen. Please, she sobbed, tears streaming down her face, destroying the makeup she'd applied for a man who would never see her again. I love you. I made a mistake. Please don't throw away everything we have. Everything we have? I replied, my voice rising for the first time, 4 years of suppressed rage finally finding release. I gave you everything. I paid for this house, I paid for your car, I paid for your clothes, your food, your shopping trips, your hair appointments, your gym membership where you probably met him. And you used all of it, every single dollar I earned, to support a relationship with another man. I picked up the divorce papers from the counter. The ones Margaret had filed electronically that morning while Claire slept peacefully beside me. I threw them at her chest. She caught them reflexively, her hands shaking so violently the papers rustled like autumn leaves. I'm divorcing you. The papers are already filed. With the evidence I have, you'll get nothing. No alimony, no property settlement, nothing. The house is in my name. Every bank account is in my name. You haven't worked in 4 years, so you have no claim to marital assets, I declared. Owen, you can't. Where am I supposed to go? She cried out. Go to your parents. Go to Brett. Oh, wait, he won't want to see you anymore. Go to hell, I don't care, I replied coldly. I walked to the front door and opened it wide, morning sunlight streaming across the threshold. Get out of my house! Owen, please, she wailed, sobbing now, mascara running down her cheeks in black rivers, her carefully constructed appearance dissolving. We can go to counseling. I'll do anything. You don't understand, do you? I asked, my voice dropping to something quiet and deadly, the tone that had made corporate executives confess to embezzlement rather than face my audit reports. I don't want to fix this. I don't want to work on our marriage. I don't want you anymore. You're not the woman I married. You're not the woman I trusted. You're nothing to me now. Claire tried to move toward me, reaching out with desperate hands. I stepped back. If you're not out of this house in 10 minutes, I'm calling the police and having you removed for trespassing. You have 10 minutes to take whatever you can carry. Everything else I'm donating to charity or burning in the backyard, I stated firmly. Owen, she started. 9 minutes, I interrupted. Claire collapsed on the entryway floor, sobbing so hard her entire body convulsed. I watched without emotion, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction as the woman who'd destroyed our marriage finally faced consequences for her choices. She eventually pulled herself up, her legs unsteady, and stumbled upstairs. I heard drawers slamming, hangers clattering, the sound of someone whose world had just imploded trying to salvage anything from the wreckage. She came back down carrying a suitcase stuffed with clothes, toiletries, her laptop, the belongings of a woman who'd gone from homeowner to homeless in 15 minutes. At the door, she looked at me one last time. Her face was destroyed, red, swollen, streaked with tears and smeared makeup. The beauty that had attracted me reduced to human wreckage. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. I closed the door in her face. Through the window, I watched her car pull out of the driveway for the last time. Watched her drive away from the life she'd systematically destroyed with lies and betrayal. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel relieved. I felt empty, hollowed out, like a building after controlled demolition. But I also felt something else. A cold, hard satisfaction that justice had been served, that consequences had finally caught up with choices. My phone buzzed. A text from Margaret Sinclair. She signed the papers. It's done. I deleted the message and sat alone in the house that was finally, completely, irrevocably mine. The divorce finalized in record time. Claire didn't contest anything. She signed every document Margaret placed before her, accepted a token settlement of $1,500, and disappeared from my life as completely as if she'd never existed. I kept everything. The house, all savings accounts, retirement funds, investment portfolios. I had the locks changed the day she left, donated most of her belongings to charity, threw the rest in dumpsters. I repainted the bedroom, bought new furniture, erased every trace of her presence from my life with methodical thoroughness. My daily routine returned to what it had been before marriage. Work, home, solitude. Colleagues knew I was divorced, but asked no questions. I volunteered no information. I remained the same reliable, methodical senior accountant I'd always been, except now the man behind the desk was harder, colder, less trusting. At night sometimes, I lie in bed and stare at the ceiling, wondering if the emptiness will ever fade. Wondering if I'll ever trust another woman enough to share this house, this life, this carefully constructed existence. The answer, most nights, is no. Claire Hart, she dropped the Mitchell name, works as a cashier at a discount grocery store on the city's eastern edge. She lives in a studio apartment in a neighborhood where sirens wail every night and bars cover every window. Her parents disowned her when she showed up seeking shelter. Her father, a man I'd respected and shared holidays with, opened his door, listened to her tearful explanation, and delivered his verdict. "You disgraced yourself and this family. Don't come back," he had told her before closing the door permanently. She tried reaching out to me once, a long, rambling email about regret and change and second chances. I blocked her address without reading past the first line. Some doors, once closed, remain that way forever. Brett Donovan left town shortly after our encounter. Rumor is he was terrified someone was going to kill him. No one has seen him since. His Apex Fitness employment terminated without explanation, his apartment abandoned, his social media accounts deleted. Sometimes justice is swift and physical. Sometimes it's slow and psychological. Sometimes it's both. Claire spends her evenings alone, scrolling through old photos on her phone, pictures of the house, the life, the future she traded for 6 months of excitement with a man who wasn't worth the wreckage he caused. She wonders if she'll ever stop regretting her choices. She won't. The price of betrayal, I've learned, isn't paid once. It's paid every day, in every consequence that follows, in every door that closes, in every night spent alone wondering what might have been if different choices had been made. I sleep well now. In my house, in my bed, in the life I rebuilt from the ashes of her destruction. And sometimes, in the quiet moments before dawn, I think about justice, how it comes slowly for some, quickly for others, but eventually, inevitably, for everyone. Claire Hart learned that lesson too late. But she learned it completely. That, I suppose, is enough.